Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well on this stupendous Saturday. You're looking absolutely amazing, by the way. I must add that. The weekend. And look, this is just going to be a quick one. And I'm only doing 2 videos today. So this is 2 of 2. And we are sticking with the Idaho 4 case because, look, it's what I do. It's what I do. Because I'm here to balance the scales. That's all I do. Balance the scales. And try to set people on a different path. And by different path, I mean I don't expect people to think Bryan Kohberger is innocent. I don't think that at all. I don't want to turn somebody from I think Bryan Kohberger done this crime to I think Bryan Kohberger didn't do this crime. What I want to try and do is get people who are at this moment in time thinking Bryan Kohberger did this crime, I know he did it, and he deserves to die for it. I want to make those people step back, take a breather, and understand that nobody around this case should be in that position right now. And if you are somebody who is in that position where you are sitting there and you are saying Bryan Kohberger did this crime and you believe he deserves to die for it, then I would ask you to question why you think that. Why you genuinely think that. Because there's only going to be so many questions and so many answers. Because I could turn around and say, why do you think Bryan Kohberger is guilty of this crime and you believe that he deserves to die for it? And what will you tell me? Oh, I believe that that's the case because I still see it now, right? I still see it because he bought a knife off Amazon. We don't know that. We don't know that he bought anything off Amazon. We know that law enforcement, the team fighting against Bryan filed search warrants for Amazon or to Amazon that was specifically looking for the purchase of a knife sheath. Because Amazon, when you provide a search warrant, you have to provide a legitimate reason for asking for something. So you can't just go to Amazon and say, I want all of his purchase history about everything, absolutely everything that he's ever bought at any time, because that's unreasonable. That goes against his privacy rights. He's got a right to privacy. So when they send out a search to a company asking for something, they will ask for, right, we need to know purchases that he has made from this specific site that could be either a knife and or knife sheath, because it's relevant to their investigation. They're trying to find out whether he had indeed purchased these items for doing this crime, and that's reasonable to ask that. But people believe that it was confirmed that Bryan Kohberger did indeed buy a knife and sheath. And even if he did buy a knife and sheath, that doesn't necessarily mean, especially someone who's an avid hiker, walker, rambler, moon and stars searcher, threw that in there for the jokers, he could buy a knife. That's as simple as that. He could buy a knife, and it doesn't make him a killer. Also hearing people say, well, his car was in the area. His car hasn't been proven to be in the area. His car hasn't been proven to be in the area. A car like his has been seen on a camera at some point in the night where this happened. But we don't know if that's when the murders happened. The reason we believe the white car is connected to the murders is because they're saying that an eyewitness saw someone in the house around this sort of time because they saw him and then went, what's the time? All right. And then they tied that in with this white car they saw to make this story. But if the murder is not Bryan Kohberger and that's not Bryan Kohberger's car, then how do you know when the crime happened? You just don't. How do you know that someone didn't walk into that house? And if that was indeed the white car that was connected to the murders and that went down the way it did, then how come Bryan Kohberger's car was searched and there was absolutely nothing in it? Oh, I know why. Because law enforcement, through a mainstream media article, apparently said that Bryan Kohberger had been cleaning his car with bleach. Have people had a knock on the head? Do you truly believe that if Bryan Kohberger would have been out cleaning his car with bleach, there would not be evidence of that? And that would not have been made available to us through the court documentations, rather than Ann Taylor making the statement that not only was there no evidence found, but there was no evidence of hiding evidence, if that makes sense. What else is there? What else could possibly make you think that Bryan Kohberger has done this absolutely beyond a reasonable doubt? And we'll get to the main one in a second, because that's what the upcoming hearings are about. But is it because he wore gloves at his mum and dad's house? Look, this crime happened back in 2022, when the world was still reeling from a certain thing. We called it the pandemic. People were still reeling from that. And Bryan Kohberger, it's been stated, was potentially a germaphobe and a vegan, and he's sorting stuff out in his bins and his trash, and he's using his neighbour's bin. I use, and this is the gospel truth, actually every other week I use a neighbour's trash can to put our trash in it. Because we generate more than what the neighbours do. Because we're a bigger family. So we use theirs. If I ever have to go into the bin and rummage around to get stuff out or touching stuff that I don't want to touch, I wear gloves. And I've not killed anyone. And look, what else is there? What else do you want to know? And I will say this, if Bryan Kohberger, if law enforcement believed that he had been cleaning his car out and doing all this stuff in his car, and hoovering it all out and cleaning it, please tell me why when they searched that property they didn't put on the things that they'd collected a vacuum cleaner. Did anyone see a vacuum cleaner? Did I miss that? Let me know down below if I did. Because surely there could have been particulates inside that vacuum cleaner. Anyway, the final thing is the knife sheath. The knife sheath. The golden goose, the thing that put us all here. The thing that set the wheels in motion, and the one thing that many, many people hang on to. I will just say this. Law enforcement may have planted it. They may not have. I personally believe that someone tipped Moscow Police Department off. I believe this came in from a tip. Whether it came in through the tip line. Remember, that could have come in through the tip line. Someone could have rang the tip line and said, this is the person you need to look at. And that just had to be someone who had an inkling, had a thought, saw a car, thought someone was odd, like you do. You see someone, you think they look strange. They behave differently, you think they're a killer. You look in their eyes, and you think that makes you an expert on the human body and brain. And all of a sudden, all eyes are on this person. They're told it's him. They do all the homework. And all of a sudden, you've got a situation where they know they just need something to tip everything over the edge. And a knife sheath appears. But even if that's not the case and it didn't get planted, don't think for 1 second that there isn't a scenario where touch DNA, trace DNA, whatever DNA you like, couldn't have got on that knife sheath and Bryan Kohberger not be the killer. Okay, just because the DNA is on there, if it went on there in a way that doesn't mean that law enforcement actually put it there or done anything with that, that in itself doesn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did the crime. And it's dangerous to think it does. Because it can be explained away. It can. And as much as you perhaps don't want to hear it, that's just a fact. So in order to be right, in order to be proper, I think the place where people should be is this. And that is that it's very, very plausible that Bryan Kohberger could have done this crime. Of course he could. There is no specific mould for a killer. So it would be naive to think that he couldn't do it. But on the flip side of that coin, has there been enough evidence provided to truly send a person to their death for this crime? Because I don't think there has. And the more I see of the shenanigans that are going on in the courtroom, I'm yet to believe that there is anything more than what we, the public, have seen. So if you are someone who's hell-bent on suggesting that there's more, there's 51 terabytes. 51 terabytes. 51 terabytes represents every single thing. So where they've gone into a business and said, we need all of your cameras for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. So they bring the whole lot. That's one lot. Doesn't mean that Bryan Kohberger's on there all the time. He could be on there in 2 frames. He may not be on there at all. But it's the understanding that in order for you to convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt and send them to the death, I want you to ask yourself a question that is, do you know enough to do that? And if you do not, but you are actively pushing a narrative to try and suggest to other people that they should share your thoughts, especially if you're a content creator doing it, especially if you're a content creator or anybody with influence, if you are at this stage trying to tell people that it is right to condemn a man to death at this point in this case, then you are sick, and you do not believe, you do not deserve to have a platform to have people listen to you. And I'll leave you with that. I'll catch you all tomorrow.